And good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for joining our first ever live stream here on Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully it's all working. We've absolutely no idea if it's working or not. But hopefully we've got people out there that's watching us, and hopefully that our usual crowd are back in the room and watching us. There should be a chat box somewhere on the screen that hopefully, if you can see that, please write in there, let us know where you are in the world. If the chat box doesn't come through for any reason whatsoever, then I'll just keep waffling on as usual. So if it's the first time that you, I've just got a message, the first message, look, the first message, Kenzie, it's working, fantastic. So that's Kenzie on Facebook, brilliant stuff. Okay, so we're off and running. We've been so nervous about this. If this is the first time, you may be wondering, why is he waffling on this way? We've been doing this now for over a year on webinar software, and we decided to go live streaming instead. And this is the first one of 2023 as well, so happy new year. But yeah, we're a little bit nervous about everything. So if you are watching us at the moment, then please let us know where you are in the world. Just give us a little message, and it'll just make us feel a little bit better, and that I'm talking to somebody. I can actually see that I'm talking to people, but there you go. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, my name is David Benton, and I've been working in the Italian property industry for around 15 years now, and we do these things on a Thursday night just to let you know how things work over here, to give you more confidence with the legal system, the buying process, and all that kind of thing. So please join us. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and on Facebook. We're seeing loads of conversations come through now, which is fantastic. So make sure you please join us every week. As I say, we're going to talk about the legal buying system. We're going to interview people that's maybe bought here, that are restoring, and all that kind of thing. And we're also going to have other professionals on here. We're going to have accountants, all sorts of things, and that's every Thursday at this time. So make sure you like and subscribe, and then you'll get to know about everything that's happening. So quick little background about us. I say us, it's myself and my wife Silvana that run this business, and we've been helping people buy and restore and relocate to Italy, mainly in the Abruzzo region, which is where we're based and where we live, but also other parts of Italy as well. So if you're looking to buy a property anywhere in Italy, then I'm sure we'll be able to help you out if you just contact us via our website, which is www.ahomeinitaly.com. And contact us. Let's have a chat and find out how we can help you find your perfect place in Italy. And if you're coming out to Abruzzo and you want to view properties, then fantastic, get in touch. I'll show you some fantastic places that we have, and hopefully find you the place of your dreams. So as I say, it's myself, my wife that run this, but these shows are also aided by Tony, who's the man in the clouds. Tony is he's the person that starts putting the questions through and all that kind of thing. So if you do want to ask any questions tonight, make sure it's relevant to tonight's subject, and he will happily put them all through. So he's actually been promoted. So you in the sense of, before he just used to do moderation. Now, look what he's doing. He's changing the screen. I'm actually calling him Ticker Tony, or Tony the Ticker Man. I don't know which one's best. Let me know. Ticker Tony or Tony the Ticker Man. If you're wondering what a ticker is, that's the thing that is running across the bottom of the screen, and Tony's got control over that, unfortunately. So hopefully he's written nice things over there, but he will be changing those as the night goes along. So okay, we're going to get started really soon. I just want to let you know firstly what's happening next week. Next Thursday we've got a couple in that are Ticker Tony. Somebody's written, at least that is a good name. So it's Ticker Tony or Tony the Ticker Man. Anyway, I'm going off subject. Next week, next Thursday, we've got Mark and Tracy who are coming to be interviewed. They bought a house about a few months ago, came with a great budget in Abruzzo, and ended up buying something for less than 30,000 euros, ladies and gentlemen, less than 30,000 euros. And what an amazing place they've got. And that's one of our specialized webinars that we try and do at least once a month, or if not more, but at least once a month we try and do these. That's called Meet the Home Buyers. So that's going to be next week. Hopefully Tony is going to learn how to change this thing here, Tony, that's saying happy 2023, and he's going to put on there what's going to be happening next week. There it is. Look, he's getting used to his job now. And also then the week after, on the 26th, so that should change again, Tony. This is Look at this, superb. Modern technology, you just can't beat it. So the 26th of January, we have our foreign exchange expert who's coming in, David Nixon, who's going to let you guys know how you can save literally thousands when you change money from the currency that you're in over to euros to buy your property. So that's next week, meet the home buyers. And then on the 26th, we're going to be talking to David Nixon and giving some great advice on that. Then obviously through February, we'll be giving all the details of that program on our website, and I will also email you as well. Okay, we've got a great number in. It's absolutely superb to see so many people in. So my eyes are going to be going all over the place because I don't know this new system. But there you go. We're just going to give it a try. We're in this together. So let's get talking. Let's get straight into our subject tonight. So the subject we're talking about is, look at this. Look at that for timing. Perfect. Purchase fees and, oh, look what we've written. Tony, first mistake. Purchase fees and taxes. Can't believe it. The first one. That should read, hopefully Tony, we'll see how good he is now, should read purchase fees and taxes. But there you go. It's always good for a laugh, isn't it? Now look, now he's done the fee and a gap on it. He's just taking the mess. Anyway, it's the joys of starting something new, ladies and gentlemen. So we're talking about purchase fees and taxes on a serious note, but we'd like to have a little bit of fun as well, because it has to be fun when we talk about something as boring as taxes. But there you go. It is real. Look, he's changed it. Purchase fees and taxes. That's what we're going to go through. So let's get this started. Let's start to get a little bit. TF Jew is saying need to fess up. True. Okay, so yeah, keep letting us know where you're from. But then what we will do is once we start getting into the question times, let us know. Let us know about the anything you want to know related to the subject. Feel free to write it in the chat box. Obviously, Tony will pull as many questions out as he can, and we will try and answer them as we go along. Okay, so purchase fees and taxes. The important thing to remember, and I say this to everybody, and I'm actually guilty of something that I always go on about all the time, because now I am streaming live on social media, and sometimes I do blame social media for quite a lot of stuff, and I know I shouldn't do, but it does quite annoy me when there's so much bad information out there. And it always comes from what I call armchair experts. I couldn't get my words out then. Armchair experts. These are the people that have bought here. They've bought one property and they know everything. They know everything about the property market. They're the ones that as soon as you write, how do you do this? They'll give you tons of advice and no idea what they're talking about. They're the ones that have bought one property, maybe even two properties. So they tell you, well, when I bought, it came out at 10 or 15%. So that is what the fees are that you should think about when you're buying a property in Italy. I hate that kind of information. I'm usually one of the first people on there, then not arguing with people, but saying that is not true, because it can be way out. Lots of people do say 10 to 15%. It is something. It can be way out, and I'm going to give you. First of all, I'm going to give you the reasons why it can be way out. Two simple examples, and then I'm going to go through all the types of fees that you're going to look at and how you can work it out and be really accurate. So the reason why it can be way out, let's imagine a property of 30k. Let's imagine a property of 20k. So anything up to 50k, and there's lots of properties around in Italy, not just in Abruzzo, all over Italy, that can be up to 50k. But I'm going to choose one. I'm going to choose one in the middle, 25k. What you've got to consider is straight away, if you're dealing with an estate agent, or maybe you're dealing with consultants, somebody like myself, but if you're dealing in particularly with an estate agent, you pay 3% with a minimum, usually, of 3,000 euros. And with some people, it's actually higher than that now. It's actually heading towards 4,000 euros because of price increases and everything else. So straight away there, even at 3,000 euros, you're already at 12-13%. Then you've got to put the VAT on, which is currently 22%. So that 3,000 becomes 3,660. So on your property of 25k, you've already got, I haven't got my calculator brain, but we've already got what, 12, 13, 14% straight away there before you even start. Then you have notary fees, then you have taxes and everything else. So this 10 to 15% can be way out. So it's one of those situations where, somebody coming out here that's listened to a load of people off certain I'm not going to say the words because I'm streaming on one of them now, but they listen to these people. They come out with maybe 25K, 30K budget. I'll find a property for 25 and I've got roughly 2.5, 3K in expenses. They're going to have a huge shock later. The other side of the coin is somebody at let's say 300K. In fact, no, to make it easy, let's make 500K. So 500K, if it was 10 to 15%, that's closing fees of like 50 to 75K. That's ridiculous amount. It's going to be nowhere near. It would have to be something really not unusual, but there are some circumstances that could make it really high, but not as high as that. So you're going to be scaring people away with that type of budget, because that would be ridiculous types of fees. The only way to know how much the fees are by working it out correctly. And I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. Okay, so we're going to start doing a little bit. This is where things are going to start going a little bit wrong now. We're going to do a little bit of screen sharing because I want to go through this stage by stage. It is a little bit complicated as we go along. Some of you will feel like falling to sleep, I've no doubt, but try and stay with me. If not, Tony, every now and then will keep putting these ticker things along or doing some of this screen just to wake you all up. But we're going to go through it little bit by little bit. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to what's this one? Lisa, David is the Abruzzo dude. I've been called a lot worse. Anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Lisa. Fantastic. Okay, so now we're going to, I need to do some, let's have a quick look, see if this works. We've been practicing this all week. Anyway, that looks like it's working. Okay, so let's start. These are typical expenses. So this is not including notary fees, taxes, registrations, anything like that. So we're just purely talking everything other than the complicated part, if you like. So straight away, we have estate agents fees, 3% plus EVA. EVA is VAT. But those 3% now are very often with a minimum of 3,000 to 4,000 euros plus VAT. So that's something to think about straight away. That's if you're using an estate agent. Then we have translator and translations. So I've written here approximately 400 to 600. You do have to consider now, with everything that's happening in the world, unfortunately, and all the prices going up, you should be looking at the higher end rather than the 400K. Why do you need a translator and translations? Quite a simple reason. If you do not speak the language, so if you do not speak Italian, then you must have a translator present at the signing of the act. Yes, you can sign power of attorney to somebody. If lots of people will sign power of attorney over to me to go and sign on their behalf, that's fine. If you're not in the country, I can do that and I can sign in Italian and you can save on the translation fees. However, if you're here, you can still sign power of attorney to somebody else, but I always suggest that you should have it translated anyway. Why would you sign something that you don't understand? That's a huge thing, huge thing for me, because I deal with people so many times, so far down the transaction, when they're signing something, they've no idea what it is that they're signing, and that's when people get in touch with me. So yeah, you should always have it translated, and if you go to the notary, then you can't just sit there nodding your head and thinking that the notary is going to be fine with it, because if they ask you questions that you can't answer, they will cancel the act. It's as simple as that. Okay, and then we have geometry. I've written if needed, because let's be honest, here, when you buy in Italy, the only person by law that you need to use is a notary. You don't need an estate agent. You do need a translator. So, sorry, the second person. You do need a translator if you don't speak the language. A geometer, you will not, once you join these shows, I absolutely love having geometers. I'll talk about those on another show. I would suggest you have one, but they're not needed. A solicitor. Solicitors do not do conveyancing here in Italy. Lots of people think the first person I need is a lawyer. That's not how it works here. What you do need is the details of what you do need is a notary. You don't have to have a solicitor. Martin is just saying, will this be available after the stream? Yes, it will. It should go straight onto YouTube and Facebook and should stay there. So you'll be able to listen to me for as many times as you like. Why you'd want to do that, I've no idea, but there you go. Anyway, so let's go. We've then got solicitor. Again, I've written if needed. If you feel the need for a solicitor, then you should consider around about 2,000 to 3,000 euros. Some may be a little bit less, but the vast majority, in my experience, around about that price. Again, I keep saying if you need, because you don't need to have one. If you want one, have one. They're obviously the people that will give you legal advice. but there's lots of other people that can get you through all of this. We specialize in this type of thing. I'm not saying that we give legal advice. We're not allowed to give legal advice, but the use of a solicitor is not something that happens very often out here. Okay, and then a survey, again, if needed, you should consider between 500 to 800 euros. A survey is a good idea. Not so sure. I had a survey done on this property that we bought purely because there was a huge crack that I could get my hand through the side of the house, and I was a little bit concerned, obviously, about it. So yes, I did get one done, but this is where I feel a geometer is a bit like a surveyor, surveyor crossed with, I'm going to say, architect, that kind of thing. But they're brilliant to take around with you if you find a property that you love. Get to know a good geometer and let them give you some advice. So yeah, there is an argument for having a survey. It depends really how you feel about the relationship you got with the people who you're dealing with. So those are the typical expenses, not included notary fees and all that kind of thing. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Objects that can increase taxes. Now, these are the kind of things that you need to consider. You need to think about the kind of property that you're looking at. So, and if these are the kind of properties that you're thinking of, then you should consider that taxes could be considerably higher than normal. So building land, which is terreno edificabile. What does that mean? Building land is basically a plot of land that you're allowed to build on. Now, the reason why that will cost a lot in taxes is it's actually a lower tax rate than agricultural land, but building land can be 10 times, 20 times, 30 times more expensive at much higher value, much higher taxable value as well. So if somebody says to you, this property is a great property, and the good thing about it as well is it comes with a huge plot of building land, don't always see that as a positive. If you want to build, obviously it is a huge positive for you, because you could in effect build another property, maybe even build another 2 properties. But if you're not going to build, it's expense. It's expense at the time that you buy a property, but it's also expense in the sense that you may have to pay yearly taxes on things like that as well. Now, we're not going to cover yearly taxes on this particular program, purely because there's enough to talk about with purchase taxes, but we will do ongoing and yearly taxes on another session. Okay, so luxury properties. What do I mean by luxury properties? Not necessarily just a villa with a swimming pool, but it could be something prestigious. Maybe you're looking for something on the banks of Lake Garda. Maybe you're looking for something in the middle of Firenze or something. There's certain categories that can make the taxes, you pay a slightly higher tax. Buying as a business for business use. The reason why you pay more if you're buying as a business. So this is not, if you're going to buy as a personal person, then you decide to, I don't know, have a B&B or something like that. That's different. But if you set up a company to buy a property, then that's where things change. Because as a person, you can ask for your taxes to be paid, not on what you pay for the property, but on what we call the catastale value. I'm going to go through this shortly. You don't pay on that value. You don't pay on what you paid for it. You pay on usually a lesser value, the taxable value, what it's registered at the local council with. But if you're buying it as a business, then you cannot ask for that lower value. You actually pay your taxes on what you buy it for. So to give you a quick example, I'm going to go through this afterwards, but to give you a quick example, if you bought a property for 100k, it may have a taxable value of just 50 or maybe 40k or something like that. And if it does, then that's what you pay your taxes on. If you're buying it, that's if you're buying it as a person or 2 people, a married couple, or maybe 4 people, whatever. The minute you buy it as a business, you don't pay the taxes on the lower amount, you pay it on the full amount, the 100k. So that's the reason why that is coming up as something that would increase taxes. Registered as unità collabente, which is an F2. So what does this mean? I hear you all saying. This usually applies to properties that's maybe just a pile of bricks. Or maybe it's in such a terrible condition there's no way it could be habitable in any way. And I'm talking about something that is in really, really bad condition. And what people do is, if you own a pile of bricks as a second home, so for instance, if I owned a ruin, or my grandfather passed away and left me a pile of bricks in the middle of the beautiful countryside that I wanted to sell. Because that would be my second home, because this is my first home where I don't pay yearly taxes. I wouldn't want to pay yearly taxes on a pile of bricks because I can't live there. So they register it in a certain way that basically says it's in a terrible condition and I don't have to pay taxes on that. The problem is then when you come to buy that, is in the same way what happened with the businesses on the last thing I was speaking about, where you if you buy as a business, you have to pay on what you actually paid for it, not on the lower rate. If you buy a pile of bricks that are registered as an F2, then basically if you pay 100k for that, your taxes are 100k. Taxes are based on 100k, and I'm going to give you the tax rate shortly. So that's something else to look out. If you are looking for a ruin or a pile of bricks, if it is registered as that, then it will be, your tax rate will be based on what you pay for it. Lots of outbuildings, again, because they're all extra buildings, even if they are garages, barns and things like that, it doesn't matter, it's extra buildings, so you're going to be paying on that. And also lots of land. There's so many people that say, land is really cheap, I want to buy, especially coming from the UK, we get sort of small gardens and things like that. Some people want to buy huge plots of land, hectares and hectares of land. That's great, but it can cost a fair amount of money. So if you're looking for property with a lot of land and a lot of outbuildings, these are the kind, I'm not saying run away and think, no, this is going to be ridiculously expensive. It's just a case of understanding what can make it a little bit more expensive. It's just good to have the knowledge before you go. And if somebody says, okay, big plot of land, part of it's building land, and there's 3 outbuildings, straight away you should, okay, I remember Dave saying to us, if it's like this and if it's like this, it could cost a little bit more. So, and then just ask the questions. You may still be surprised how cheap it is, but you don't want to have a shock later on. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. If I can move this across, look at this, it's all working. Now I'm going to go through some of the, how the notary fees are made up, the notary fees and taxes. So we've gone through sort of things like estate agents and that kind of thing. So put all those in one section. So you know you're going to pay a estate agent if you use them, if you want a solicitor and so on, a geometer, translators. This is the bit where it's a little bit more complicated. So a guide to, I shouldn't have pressed that button. Let me go back to, help me out here, Tony. Here we go. I knew something would go wrong somewhere down the line. Let me just get this, back. For some reason it's zoomed in hugely, but there you go. Anyway, we're talking now about the actual notary fee. The notary fee as in his or her fee, not the amount. I'm trying to zoom out and it just won't let me zoom out. So apologies for that. I'm going to come back to me. With notary fees, there's 2 parts of notary fees. There's the actual notary fee, so the work that person does. Then there's all the fees and taxes and registrations and that kind of thing. Now the actual notary fee is what just goes to the notary. So that they are also responsible to collect all the fees and taxes. So when your agent or whoever you're dealing with says, okay, your notary fees are 5,000 euros, the first question should be, is that 5,000 euros just the notary fee, or is it 5,000 euros including all the fees and taxes? Because it is all lumped under one thing. Now, to work the notary fee out, that slide should have shown you. I will put these slides, once it goes onto YouTube, I will put these slides on there so you can see them. But the way notaries work their fee out is on a percentage of the price that you pay for the property. Now, what I would say is up to 250k. Up to 250k. So if you say between sort of say between 1,500 and 2,500, I would say you're about right, up to 250k. So obviously a property of 250k, you need to think that just the notary fee is going to possibly be somewhere around about the 2,500, somewhere around about that. If you're buying something of 150k, 100k, you should be considering around about 1,500 euros somewhere. If you're buying something at 20k, there's always going to be a minimum. It's always going to be at least 11, 12, 1,300 euros, because no matter how much the property is, even though their fees are based on, part of their fees are based on the price, the work that goes into it is the same. So if you're buying a property at 20k, don't think that the notary fee is going to be 200k. It won't be. It will be a minimum of about sort of 11, 12, 1300, somewhere around about that. So that's the actual notary fee. Okay, let me move on to the next slide and hope that that one doesn't zoom out. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. Let's hope this one's okay. We're back to normal now, thankfully. Right, so the next thing that we have to consider is the stamp duty. Now, this is what you hear everybody talking about on Facebook and places like that. The stamp duty. So this is due on houses, garages, barns, storage rooms, anything like that, anything that's a building, okay? And it's 2% if you're going to become a resident, 9% as a non-resident or as a second home. So just to go through what that all means. Basically, if you're going to become a resident after you've bought the property within 18 months of buying the property, if you're going to become resident, you will pay 2% taxes on the property, on the bricks and mortar, if you like. You will pay 2% taxes. Not on what you pay it for, but on the catastale value. I'll go through that with you shortly, what that means. If you're buying it as a non-resident, so it's a holiday home or something like that, you will pay 9% of the taxable value. If it's a second home, then again, you will pay 9%. So what I mean by a second home is, for instance, I have a house here with my wife and family. If we decide to buy another property, that will be classed as a second property. So it's nothing to do with where you live, whether you're an Italian citizen or not. These taxes apply to everybody. So if you're going to say that is going to be my house, I'm going to live in that property, then you will pay 2%. Now you have to make sure that you do your residency within 18 months of buying a property if you're claiming the residency discount. So the notary is not going to remind you. The notary is not going to check up on you. What the notary will say to you is, at the time of signing, are you buying this as a resident or not? That's all they need to know. It's your declaration. So if you write, yes, I am, he will apply the 2% tax rate to your bill. Now, obviously, it is really important that you make sure that you do it within 18 months, because if not, you will have to pay the difference between the 2 and the 9%, and you will also pay a fine. So the fine is roughly 30% of the difference between the 2 and the 9%. Kenzie's just saying what is considered lots of land. So going back to that other thing, I would say lots of land would be when you start talking hectares, and I'll go through some of that with you shortly. But if you're buying sort of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 hectares, some people want 15, 20 hectares, and you'll see why shortly. Okay, so the 9%, as I said, non-resident or second homes, and that is what you will pay on the taxable value. And this is based on what I said, the catastale value. Now there I've written in brackets, I've written except for categories F2, A1, A8 and A9. Now F2 is the one I told you about, the pile of bricks, because you can't pay 2% on that. You have to pay the 9%. A1, A8 and A9 cover luxury properties, castles, maybe things like that. So things that have a category such as this, and your estate agent or whoever you're dealing with will know what category these are in. They're charged at 9%. Okay, and then the important thing to remember is that the stamp duty is, we're talking about buildings here. So we're just talking about houses, barns, and all the rest of it. Land is taxed separately, completely separate. And I'm going to go through that now with you. And just to let you know, I know some of this is going to be confusing. We will do some examples at the end, which should make it all a little bit easier. Okay, so going through this again, what is the catastale value? So the catastale value in English is the cadastral value. You probably still don't know what that means. It's basically is the taxable value of a property. I've written here that the value is often much less than the purchase price. However, it is really important to know that properties of a cheap price, so anything under 30k, the 20s and the 30s and things like that, sometimes the catastale value could be higher than what you actually pay for it. So don't always think it's going to be a lot less, because it can be higher. Now, there's lots of examples. I've done a sale recently, a property for 150k, and it had a catastale value of just 70k, and that's what their fees and taxes were based on. So it is important. It can be a lot less, but if you're buying a cheaper property, just make sure that you bear in mind it could actually be more, the taxable value. And as I've written there, I'm going to show you how to do the calculations later. So taxes due on land. Now, agricultural land is 15%. I've written of the taxable value. It's not actually the taxable value. There's a calculation to be able to do a taxable value on land as well. It is quite a complex one, so I'm not going to go through that with you tonight. If you consider, just to make things really easy, and hopefully you will get change out of this, if it's agricultural land, if you put down €1, as long as it's not sort of land on the edge of Lake Como or something like that, if we're talking about normal agricultural land that's maybe not really well looked after and that kind of thing, you could be talking around about €1 per square meter, depending where you're buying. That would apply to places like maybe Abruzzo, maybe Molise, maybe parts of Lazio, La Marche, parts of Umbria, places like that. Obviously, you start going to Tuscany, the prices may change a little bit. So you do really need to ask the question to the people that you're dealing with, and you will pay 15% of the taxable value of that land. The reason why I said before, if it's lots of land, it may cost a fair bit. That is because obviously, if you've got, I don't know, let's say 10 hectares of land, 1 hectare is 10,000 square meters, so 100,000 square meters of land. Giving that just a €1 value of 100,000, you then pay 15% of that. Just on that land is 15k in taxes. If it's somewhere like Tuscany, it could be a lot more. So that's why we're saying if it's a lot of land, consider that the taxes could be quite high. Okay, non-agricultural land, so building land, this is what I was telling you about before, is only 9%. However, the building land can cost so much more. So to give you an example, the area where I live, agricultural land can be anything between 80 cents per square meter to €2 a square meter. But building land will go up to 30, 35 euros a square meter, and that would be for a fairly cheap one. So even though it's 9%, the building land, if you've got a large plot of building land, it can cost you an absolute fortune in purchase fees and taxes. And not only that, you may have to pay some yearly taxes on it as well. So if you do get building land, it can be a good thing if you're going to use it. If not, it can just be a little bit of a pain. Okay. So we've got tax on, I've written then at the bottom, tax on land that is connected to the house using the same plot number as the house is not taxed extra to the house. Okay, I will explain that because now I've read it back, it means absolutely nothing to me as well. So let's move on to the next slide so I can show you. Hopefully you can see my, my little arrow sort of pointing around here. So if you look at this example, this is taken from, I could do with actually zooming in this one, but I probably can't. Nope, there you go. So this is taken from an official land registry. It's an official land registry document where each one of these lines, hopefully you can see them, is a plot of land. And I've highlighted this purple one because you can see in the middle, there is a building there. And then there is a plot of land that's around that building. Now, that has just got one plot number. You probably can't make it out, maybe a little bit small. That's got one plot number for the house and this one piece of land. Also, this one here, this house here has got all of this plot all the way around it, and all that just has one plot number. In this case, it's what we call a corte, which it almost means like a courtyard. And that is for use of the house. It comes as part of the house. So that is not taxed. So if you let's say you find a property with just a small garden, there's a very good chance that that small garden comes under the same plot number as the house. So it's not taxed separately to the house. So I hope it makes sense. When I say it can be a small plot, it can also be, I mean, look at the size of this one where the arrow is now. It is a huge plot. So all of that would come under the same number as the house. So you wouldn't be charged tax on all that land. You would only be charged taxes on the house. So going back to the purple one, let's say you bought that. So this bit of land around the house wouldn't be charged. But let's say you bought this plot and then this plot and then another plot. Obviously, these all have their own numbers and they will all be charged separately. So that's basically what that means when we talk about land that is connected to the house. Okay. Are you still staying with me? Hopefully I'm not boring you all. Everybody's been really, really quiet. Kristen is saying, can you tell us again what the time frame is for qualifying for the 2%? Once we're residents, we have 18 months to buy. Right, so the way it works is once you actually buy your property, you have 18 months to become resident. Okay, so if some of you are applying for residence, let's say you're coming from the US or even the UK now because you need to get visas and things like that, then you have 18 months to sort that out from the minute that you pay for the property. There's no extensions. 18 months you got. To be fair, it should be more than plenty of time because visa applications, especially in the US at the minute, are absolutely flying through. We've been assisting some people buying their properties here that have gone for visa applications, and we're talking weeks, not even months. But yes, you have 18 months to get that sorted out. Nobody's going to chase you. They will then ask you in 18 months' time, the tax office will more than likely contact you and say, you've not managed to do it, so you owe us this plus a fine. If you know you're not going to do it in time, it's always better. You can run the risk if you really, really want to. I definitely wouldn't advise it of just saying nothing to nobody, but they will catch up with you. It's just not worth it. You're always best sort of saying to the tax office, I'm really sorry, but I've not done residence in time. What's my fine? And they may let you off with some of the extras that's on there. Jamie's saying still with you. That's good to hear. Still awake here, looking good. Thanks, Norman. I don't know if you mean me or looking good. Anyway, now I can't. I've lost my train of thought. Now here we go. So let's get this back on. The other extra fixed taxes and registrations are basically 2 lots of €50. This may be slightly higher now, but stick an extra 10-15% onto what I'm saying just to be on the absolute safe side anyway. Imposta ipotecaria and imposta catastale. So what are these? These are things that the notary does as part of the searches. They check that if there's any debts on the properties and that kind of thing, and they check that all the land registry documents match exactly what you're selling. So these are the extra little stamps. There's always other little bits as well, but we could go on here all night. These are the basic things, the way that the notary fee and the fees and taxes are all put together. Okay, so let's just have a quick summary. So the summary of fees and taxes paid to the notary fee. So there's the actual notary fee, as I said before. Consider up to 250K. Houses up to 250K, I would say, would be up to 2,500 just for their fees. I wouldn't go any less than 1,300 for notary fees. But if you think 1,500 is the lowest for properties of 30, 40, 50, 60K, 70K, then you should be roundabout correct. Again, ask the people who you're working with to get an idea of how much these fees are. When people come with me and they like a property, then I find that it's my job to go to the notary or ring the notary and say, give me an idea how much the fees and taxes are going to be on this place. But these should help you if you're dealing with people that are just not responding to your emails and things like that. So the actual notary fee, stamp duty, which is paid on buildings, if you remember. So buildings, we're paying at 2% as a resident or 9% as a non-resident, usually paid on the cadastral value, the taxable value. So that's paid on houses, garages and storage rooms, etc. And then we've got stamp duty of 9% if you're buying a ruin, if it is registered as an F2. Then you've got the land tax, 15% on agriculture and 9% on building land. So again, you need to have a word with the person that you deal with to find out roughly the value of the land. They should be able to work these things out for you. Okay, then it says at the bottom, note, buying from a builder with a mortgage or as a business, extra fees and taxes will always be added. We can't go through every scenario, unfortunately. I think the vast majority of you are not going to be buying as a business, and the vast majority are not going to be buying brand new that's not built yet. Working out the taxable value. This is quite a big thing. So your estate agent, I've written on here, they should give you an idea of how much the taxes are and that kind of thing. But let's say you're just buying let's say you're buying something without land and without outbuildings. You're buying something in a town or a village, something like that. It is really simple to work this out. But what you must have is, and Tony, I'll put this one up now. Look, you need to know the rendita or the valore catastale. Rendita is the word. That's the key word of the day, rendita. What does that mean? That is a figure which is usually something like, to give you an example of what that figure will look like, it could be 242.37. I've just completely plucked that out of my mind, but let's just say that that's the kind of figure it will be. 167.39, 460, you're getting the idea. It's usually in the hundreds, point something. So how do we work out the taxable value once we have the rendita? If you go on certain websites, some people will actually advertise the rendita, and then you can work it out really easy. And what I would say to you is, if you like a load of properties on a website, don't send an email saying, please, can you give me the rendita on every single property on your website, because people just won't do that. But anyway, this is how to work it out. Once you have that rendita, so if you're buying it as a first home of residence, excluding these categories, so the A1, A7, A8, so we're talking luxury. So we're talking now normal properties. It can also be villas. Maybe a villa with a swimming pool can still be classed not as A1, A7 or A8. These are real luxury properties. But if it's going to be your first home, you times that amount by 115.5. If it's going to be a second home or non-resident, then you times the rendita by 126. So there's an example at the bottom. So a rendita of 300.25 has a taxable value of 34,678.87 or 37,831.50. So it's basically the rendita, this number that you get given, times by 126 if it's going to be a holiday home or second home. That rendita is a huge thing, because that just gives you so much information, because from that then you can either times it by 2% or 9% and think, okay, that's just the tax part. That's the tax part plus the notary fees. Okay, so we're being asked any possibility to buy any properties with seller finance, because it is different for foreigners getting a bank loan in it or in Italy. I thought you meant in it. In case you're wondering, I come from Yorkshire, the part of English, so in it will be part of my slang. I would say that to get finance from people that sell in, very, very difficult. There's a lot of people seem to be advertising this rent to buy and think that everybody's going to give that. I've not come across anybody yet that will. Some people will, but it's very, very difficult. And it is difficult to get a mortgage. Yes, it is. Tony, put another question up there that has disappeared, so if you can bring that back up. Oh, here we go. Is it often that the rendita is equal or close to the purchase price of the home? No, not the rendita is a different figure. The rendita is, like I said, it could be like 256.6, or it could be 760 point whatever. So the actual taxable value, is it sort of close to, I would say more often than not, the taxable value is much less. But on cheaper properties, be aware, anything up to 50k, it could be much more. It's very rare, I would say. Christy saying, yay, Yorkshire tea is our favourite. It's very, very rare, I would say, that a property of, say, 20k would have a taxable value of 10 or 11 or 12. There's a good chance that property of 20k could even have a taxable value of 40k, so you could be going higher. Again, still don't freak out over that, but just be aware that it's not all, the taxable value is not always lower. But as I said, an example of one we sold recently, 150k, and it had taxable value of half of that, or less than half of that, if I remember rightly. So it can be a lot less, but you must ask for the rendita. Okay, so that's working out the taxable value. Once you've got the rendita, you times that by 126. Let's go on to this last one, just so you know, tax rates and how they're applied. As I say, all of these slides, I will aim to put them on. Once I've figured out how this all works, if it goes automatically to YouTube, then I'll add them to that. So 9% is added to the second home as non-resident on the catastale value, not the purchase price. 9% is also applied to second or non-residents, to garage storage rooms and sheds and that kind of thing. And properties classified as A1, A8 and A9 for both residents and non-residents, you pay 9%. And also you pay 9% if you're buying a pile of bricks. There's a good chance for that. The 2% is applied to first residential homes. So you must become resident, charged again on the cadastral value, not the purchase price. And also first residential, a garage, a storeroom, a shed. You can only have one of each one of these categories. then the rest you have to pay the 9% on. And 15% is applied to agricultural land, and there's always a minimal taxable value of €1,000. So that's something else to remember as well. So if you work it out and think, oh, my tax only comes to €500, €600, unfortunately, there is a minimum of 1,000. Okay, so it's now time to give you a few examples. We're going to get all this put together now so you can see how it all works. So example one, this is a townhouse with no land, a non-resident. These are real examples that we've done. The price was 200,000. The categories were taken from the what we call the visura, so we know exactly that we're talking about a category A4, a house, with a rendita of 402.84. We used a multiplier of 126, so that gave us a taxable value of just 50,757. So look at that. The actual price of the property was 200K, but the taxable value was just 50,757. Then it had a storage, a C2, which was using, again, the multiplier of 126. That had a taxable value of 17,101. So a total taxable value in that for that property was 67,000 compared to 200 what you pay for it. Just shows how huge the difference can be. But as I keep saying, be aware it can work the other way around as well on cheap properties. So the actual stamp duty then, 9% was 6,107. The €250 that I spoke about. The notary fee was approximately 1,800 plus VAT. The estate agent fee was 3%, and that was the highest out of all of them. I can hear you all booing and hissing now. And just so you know, I'm not an estate agent, so don't worry, I wouldn't charge you that kind of money. Little push for myself there. And then, so you got the total non-resident expenses of 15,723. So that's just 8% of the price paid. So 8% of the 200K went in fees and taxes. Whereas if you bought it as a resident, it was only 10,860. That's just 5.5% of the price paid. So these things of 15%, 10 to 15%, they can be right in some instances, but not always. Catherine is saying, are these a one-time tax at closing or yearly tax? One time. Tonight, we're just talking about purchase tax only. We're not talking about yearly taxes. Kenzie is saying, I'm assuming the taxable value would also go up if you updated the home. Yes, it would, because then if you updated your home and you redid your documents, obviously sent everything back into the land register with your adjustments, they would recalculate the rendita. I'm not saying then if you went on to sell it, that it would be as high as much as you want. The taxable value will be the same as what you were selling it for. It's still going to be a lot less in most cases, but it will go up from the original time when you bought it. Okay, let's go on to another example. I'm not going to go through every single section of this now, but I just want you to see the townhouse, no land, non-resident, price of 50K. It actually had a total taxable value of 22K. So in that case, it was less than half. And we've got then your stamp duty, €2,000 as near as damn it, and then you have two lots of 50 again. The notary fee, 1,830. The agent's fee was 3% with a minimum of 3K. So look again, 3,660. And I can still hear you booing, but please don't. Lots of estate agents do a good job. So hopefully you're not going to be too hard on them. So total non-resident expenses of this one was 7,589. This was 15%. So in this case, it was right. So when you see those people on whichever social media you go on saying, no, it's 15%, mine was 15%. Yes, it can be in some instances, but not in all instances, as we've already seen. Total as a resident, that was 6,590.32. That was 13% of the total price. Okay, let's see some with some land, and then you can get an idea of those as well. So example 3, detached house with land of 5,000 square meters, one garage, one large shed, non-resident, price of 150K. So this had a total taxable value of just €54,000 for all of that. So from 150K down to taxable values of 54K. So that was then worked out at the stamp duty, 5,346, agricultural land 750, the other expenses, including the estate agents at 5,000, I should stop saying that, 5,490, total non-resident expenses of 13k, that was 9.25%, and as a resident, just 6.5%. So that's an example on that. Kim, I'll come to your question shortly. Let me just do this last example, and then people can fire a few questions off before I leave you in peace. Example number 4. Don't know why Tony's putting back shortly on there. He's obviously, I think he's drinking, ladies and gentlemen. He's definitely drinking. He's either back shortly because he's gone to get a glass of wine. Anyway, example 4. Detached house, land of 5,000 square meters, 1 garage, 1 large shed, non-resident, price of 50,000. Yes, 50,000 euros sounds cheap, but there are places like that around. And that had a taxable value of 38,000, just over 38,000 euros. So not the half, but it was still less, which is still a good saving. And the total fees and taxes came on that at 10,099. But look at the percentage, 20% of the price paid. So already then, if you've got in your mind 10 to 15%, you're going to get a shock when you get these figures. So it's 20% of that, and then buying it as a resident, 14.5% in that particular example. So when people, it is the number one question that people love to ask me: how much roughly will it cost for me to buy a house in Italy? As you've seen just from those 4 examples, it is so difficult because there's just so many variations. Does it have land? Does it have garages? What type of land is? All that kind of thing. And it's just something that it's just, unfortunately, it's something that nobody can answer. And anybody that gives percentages, and if you're walking around thinking 10 to 15%, as lots of people do think, you could be way out. You could be way out if you're looking at properties from 200k upwards or even 150k upwards. You may be considering far too much. And you could be way out as well if you're looking at properties up to 50k. And that's where the problem is, because so many people right at the last minute found out that their bill is sometimes 30, 40%. They've got a bargain property, but they're paying 30, 40, and I've even known 50% in fees and taxes. Yes, the property may have only been 20k, and some people may say, okay, another 10k, still got a great place for 30k. That is true. But if you were basing your decision on buying that property on 10 to 15%, then a sort of 50% tax bill is quite a hefty chunk. And that's why you should stay with us every Thursday, because we tell the truth. We don't talk fiction. We're not armchair experts. We've been doing this a long time and we know how it works. Okay, that's my rant over. Kim, how is the renter determined? Size of home, value, village it's located. Yeah, there's lots of calculations, but that all comes from the land registry office. It's not something that us mere mortals can do. Everything gets sent into the land registry, and it's all decided from their calculations, however they work it out. I've got a question: what is the tax on an Airbnb? It's this all. When it comes to personal taxation, that's completely different. When you're buying the property, you're buying it just as a property. You're not buying it. You're not a business buying a property to do Airbnb. If you're buying the property as a person and then you're going to rent it out as Airbnb, then you will pay percentage on your rental income, which can be around 21%. But you really do need advice from an accountant. And in February, we're going to have Mr. Doom and Gloom himself, Gianluigi, our resident accountant, who loves to come and spoil all our times and tell us how much tax we have to pay on our homes and things. But we will be doing that in February, and he's fantastic. He's definitely worth listening to, especially if you're coming from different parts of the world and you're coming to retire here, because there are some unbelievable things where you can pay, for instance, 7% on your worldwide income for 10 years, that kind of thing. But they're all discussions for February. Okay, let's just have a quick look, see if any other questions. If there is anybody before we start to wind down, I'm just quickly checking if there is anybody that wants to ask any more questions. Please do. I've got about 1 minute of me waffling on, and then that's it. Then we'll be off. So, thank you first of all for joining us. In looking at the numbers that's joined, we're really pleased with that. We usually every week get between anything between 50 and 100 watching us, and then obviously lots of people that watch these things afterwards. So I'm so thrilled to see that there's a good amount of people on here watching. So thrilled that you actually found us, because I was worried I'd not done the right publicity and the rest of it. But this is where we're going to be now every week, every Thursday. We do try and make it as personal as possible. I do try and answer as many questions as you have. But what I will say from the bottom of my heart, that if you contact us at info@ahomeiniitaly.com. Tony's going to do that any second now. Look, there it is. Look. If you contact us on that, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know whether, if you're buying in Abruzzo, superb, because we're here, we can show you around properties and everything else. But even if you're buying somewhere else in Italy, or maybe you're going through the process and you're just not confident enough to carry this on, or maybe somebody's making you feel, I don't know, you shouldn't have any worries when you're buying over here. The system is superb. You just need to understand it. You just need to understand how it works, how tight it is, in the sense of it's very difficult to I'm not going to say difficult to get ripped off, that sounds horrible, but it's difficult to go down the wrong path if you choose the right people. But as I say, and on high, if you contact us, we will do our utmost to help you in any way possible, to make sure you find your dream place. And keep joining us every Thursday. If you're not sure, we'll go through lots of subjects. This is quite a complicated one tonight, but hopefully you've got something from it where you can then use that later when it comes to preparing your budget and that kind of thing. But we'll go through document searches. We talk about how things work in the notary's office, so you're not going to be scared about doing this. So many people recently, and people that have bought, have said it's always been my dream to buy property in Italy, but we were always worried until we found your webinars and so on and so on. And that's what we're here for. That's what makes our business what it is, and that's why we love doing this. Tony just clicked something up there. Sorry, I got this one first, Tony. So our 4-year plan is to retire from Canada to Italy. Thank you for this video. Absolutely, more than welcome, no problem at all. Tony, if you want to drop that other one, that there was another question somewhere. Oh yes, what time every Thursday? So it's the same time every Thursday. It's 7 p.m. Italian time. So that's an hour ago. So that's what time it is. I try and do it every Thursday. If it's going to be different, I will let you know well in advance. Then we've got Francis coming to Abruzzo in March. What is the best way to make an appointment with you? Really simple. Just send an email to that one that's going scrolling on the bottom of the screen, info@ahomeiniitaly.com. Send me an email. I respond to it, or between myself and my wife, we respond to all the emails. I'd be more than happy to show you a few properties. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. Oh, we've got another question. Roxanne, lease to own, is it common? I did mention this before. People are advertising it. There's lots of people on the internet saying people should be asking that. I've not come across one yet that will. I'll be completely honest with you. It is, people are saying it's the new thing, but when you speak to some of the owners, they will just be, absolutely no. It's not something that I would say 1 in 50 something like that, if you're lucky. So it's not something that I would rely on. I really wouldn't, unfortunately. Okay, guys. Tony, hopefully this guy that's not the Tony that's done all the not Ticker Tony, but Tony Patty, hopefully he's going to come and join us. He bought a property through our services without even seeing it. He only came, I think it was about a month ago, to see it for the first time. So when I handed him his keys over, I had a little bit of a wobbler, but he said he loved it, so that's the main thing. So hopefully he's going to come and speak to everybody as well over the coming months. Okay, so Scott, hello from Florida. Yes, I think I replied to you today, Scott. Looking forward to meeting you at the end of May and start our home. Looking forward to meeting you as well. Okay, guys, thank you so much again for joining us. I look forward to seeing you again next Thursday. Make sure you join us with Mark and Tracy, who's going to tell you about their amazing property that they found in a beautiful part of Abruzzo, and yeah, we're going to go through their story and how everything panned out with them. So that's next Thursday at the same time, and I will be doing publicity. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, and speak to you all soon.